Section 8.4 is titled Factoring Trinomials, but this time it's of the form ax squared plus bx plus c. And so the major difference today when we're factoring is that we're also going to have a coefficient in front of the x squared. So again, at the end of this lesson, you want to be able to factor trinomials of the form ax squared plus bx plus c. So when you factor trinomials of this form, we're going to follow a few steps to help make things a little bit easier. You're still going to break down the trinomial into two smaller binomials. So we're going to write down our two sets of parentheses. Then we're going to break down the first term into its factors. After doing that, you're going to break down the last term into its factors like we've done in the past. And then we want to check to see if we can get the middle term by multiplying. So we want to make sure we found the appropriate factors, and then the same sign rules will still apply. And today we're just going to kind of dive in and do some examples because I think that's the best way to work these out, to kind of hear my thought process and understand how to do this. So first we have 2x squared plus 5x plus 2. So remember, it is still two binomials, but instead of putting x and x in the front, we now have this 2 to consider. So what we want to think of are the factors of the first number, that number in front of the x squared. Well, this 2 only has one set of factors, 1 and 2, which means up front you're going to have a 1x and a 2x. In the back, we're still looking at factors of this back number to put in the back, and again we need to list those factors. Well, it's also a 2, and so the only factors are 1 and 2. So now we're going to place the 1 and the 2. And we want to talk about our signs. The back number is positive, so our signs will be the same, and they match the middle. So they are both addition. So now we're going to take a look at, did we get the middle term? Did we get the 5x? So if I multiply here, 1 times 2x is 2x, and outside 1x times 2 is also 2x, and when I add those up I get 4x. And you'll see that this is not the middle term. I'm trying to get a 5x, which means my combination or my the way I have things set up in the parentheses is incorrect. So what I'm always going to suggest to you is only switch one set of factors. So I'm going to switch the back. I'm going to flip the 2 and the 1. Now when I check my middle term and my outside term, 4x plus 1x, that is 5x. So I know I factored it correctly into 1x plus 2 and 2x plus 1. And now typically I won't write that 1 in front of the x, so you don't have to write it, but it's an implied 1x there. Here we have 6n squared minus 23 plus 7, or minus 23n plus 7. So again, we want to split this up into two binomials. Factors of the first number are 1 and 6 and 2 and 3. So we have a couple combinations here. Factors of the back number are 1 and 7. And typically I will start with the front factor, or the front constant or coefficient, but in this case, since 7 is prime, I know that there's only one combination of factors that we can use, and that's 1 times 7. So that's all set in place. Now I need to look at the factors of 6 and try to place those up front with my variable. So let's just start with 1n and 6n. The sign is positive in the back, so my signs are the same and they match the middle. They're both going to be negative. So let's look at what happens. This gives me a minus 6n, and this gives me a minus 7n, because we're multiplying 1 times 7, 1 times 6. That's a minus 13n. Okay, that's not what I want. So again, make sure that you're only switching one thing, and since my 6 up front has lots of factors, that's the one I'm going to flip-flop. So let's put the 6 here and the 1 here. You should always switch the numbers places before you try to use a different factor unless you can see it. So here we have negative 1n, negative 42n, and that's negative 43n. Again, it's not a negative 23. So what we can assume here now is that this 1 and 6 doesn't work. It's got to be the 2 and the 3. And some of you are going to get to a point where you're going to kind of do some of this in your head before you actually write down, but So let's put just the 2 first and the 3 second. So that's negative 3n. This is negative 14n. That's negative 17n. So again, this doesn't work. This is a system of checking, guessing, and checking essentially, unless you can see it ahead of time. So that's a 3 there and a 2 there this time. So negative 2n. Now we get negative 21n. There's our negative 23n. So we have factored this correctly. 6n squared minus 23n plus 7 factors into 3n minus 1 times 2n minus 7. Number 3 is similar to number 1. We just have a different sign in the middle. So again, the factors of 2 are 1 and 2, and the factors of 2 in the back are 1 and 2. So we know the only way to split those up is into 1 times 2. But we have 2 different combinations. And I believe on the first slide we had a 1n and a 2 and then a 2n and a 1. Except this time our signs are both going to be negative. The back number is positive, so the signs are the same and they match the middle. This gives me a minus 4n. And this gives me a minus 1n for a negative 5n. So 1n minus 2, 2n minus 1. Notice it is very similar to the first example. Number 4, we have 5m squared minus 14m minus 3. So when I split it up into my 2 smaller binomials, I want factors of 5 in the front and factors of 3 in the back. Both of these numbers are prime, so there's only one set of factors that you can use. So initially it is really just a guess method. I don't know any more than you maybe do where these numbers are supposed to go. I do know that factors of 5 are 1 and 5. The back number is negative, which this time means we have one of each as far as signs go. And I know that factors of the back number are 1 and 3, so I've just placed them in to see what I get. So this is 5m. This is negative 3m. That's going to give me 2m. That's not what I want. So let's try to flip the 1 and the 3. Put the 3 here and the 1 here. Now when we check, we get 15m and minus 1m. That's 14m, and I explained in class that we're close to what we want now. We just have the wrong sign. So when you have the wrong sign, and this is where you need to be careful, just flip the signs in your binomials. That gives you a negative 15, a positive 1, and a minus 14. So there we go. That gives us the negative or minus 14m in the middle. When your factors are prime, it makes things a lot easier because you really only have one option as far as the factors you're using. It's just making sure they get in the right place. So again, number 5, we have 2x squared plus x minus 3. So prime number in the front and a prime number in the back. So again, those are the ones we like. So we have 1x and 2x. In the back, a 1 and a 3. Our back number is negative, so our signs need to be one of each. Here we get a negative 2x, and here we get a positive 3x, so that's positive 1x, or just x in the middle. And some of you are going to ask, maybe if you solve this problem out or you're trying to work it out, maybe you have 2x plus 3 first, and then you have 1x minus 1 second. Notice it's still the exact same parenthesis. Exact same parentheses, they're just in a different order, and that's okay. That's still considered a correct answer. You're just multiplying these two parentheses together, and multiplication can be done in any order. Number 6 looks a little more difficult because now we're dealing with quite a bit larger number. So I'm going to write the factors of 20, 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. I'm going to write the factors of 9, 1 and 9, 3 and 3. And really your best method here is to stay pretty organized. If you're going to start with one of the factors of 20, make sure you exhaust both factors of 9 in both orders before you switch to a different factor of 20. And initially these can take a little bit of time, so don't get frustrated if you can't get it right away. You've got to keep trying, and the more organized you stay about it, the better chance you have of finding it pretty quickly. So for the beginning, I'm going to actually try, well, I guess we'll just try 1 and 20 so you can see what, the actual guess and check method looks like. So 1m and 20m. Let's try 9 in the back, 1 and 9. It's a negative, so I need one of each sign. That's 20m. This is minus 9m. So that's 11m. That doesn't work. Now, before I start switching the factors of 20 and the factors of 9, try just to switch them places and see what happens. Okay, well you can see that's a humongous number. That's 180m minus 1m. That's definitely not it. That's 179m. So with the 1 and the 20, 9 and 1 don't work. And before you start moving the 1 and the 20 and the 1 and 9, try the other factor. Try 3 and 3. So this gives me 60m. This is minus 3m. That's 57m. That doesn't work. What's nice about the factors 3 is that if I switch them places, it doesn't do anything different. So I know that 1 and 20 aren't going to work. So that means I can take out the 1 and the 20. And I'm actually going to cross that out. That didn't work with 1 and 9 or 3 and 3. Now let's try 2 and 10. 2m, 10m, and we'll go back to the 1 and the 9. So 1 times 10, that's 10, negative 18, and that's negative 8. That's not going to work for my middle term. Let's switch the 1 and the 9 around. Like it's 9 there. This is a 1 here. That's 90m. That's minus 2. That's positive 88. Okay, that also doesn't work. So the 2 and the m do not work with 9 and 1. Let's try them with 3 and 3. It looks like we're getting a little closer here. 3 times 10 is 30. 2 times negative 3, that's negative 6. That's 24. We need a negative 31. So with 2 and 10, we've tried 1 and 9 and 3 and 3. Again, it doesn't do me any good to switch these 3's places. So that means that the factor 2 and 10 didn't work either. Now let's try 4 and 5. And I'll start with the 1 and the 9. So this is 5m. This is minus 36m. Oh, I think we got it. That's negative 31m. There we go. That's what we want in the middle. So it's 4m plus 1 times 5m minus 9. Again, if you FOILed that out, you would get the original problem. And yes, that was a lot of guessing and checking, but factoring difficult trinomials, particularly those with coefficients in front, you've got to be able to do that. A little more simple on 7 because 2 is prime. 10, however, is not. It has factors of 1 and 10 and 2 and 5. So when we go to factor up front, I'm going to place my 1x and my 2x, and I'm not going to move those because I know that it's the only set of factors for 2. My back number is positive, and so my signs need to match the middle, which is a negative or minus sign. Now we can try the 1 and the 10 or the 2 and the 5. I'm going to go ahead and try the 2 and the 5 first this time. So that's minus 4x, and this is minus 5x. So that's negative 9x. That doesn't work. So let's flip the 5 and the 2. And that's negative 10x, negative 2x, negative 12x. So that does work. So 1x minus 5, 2x minus 2. And I know earlier I said that I wasn't going to write that 1 in there. So it would just look like that. X minus 5 times 2x minus 2. Number 8, we have 4m squared plus 14m plus 6. Factors of 4 are 1 and 4 and 2 and 2. Factors of 6 are 1 and 6 and 2 and 3. So when we split up into our binomials, and oftentimes when I try, sometimes I like to start with the factors down here at the bottom, not necessarily the 1 factor. So let's try that this time. Let's do 2m, 2m. So let's use this one, and then in the back we'll use 2 and 3. Our signs are going to be addition because signs are addition because the back number is positive and it matches the middle. So that's 4m, this is 6m, that's 10m, and that's not going to work. Now, if I switch my 2 and my 3, that actually doesn't do me anything different because the 2's up front are still, they're both 2's. So the 2 and the 3 aren't going to work. Let's try the 1 and the 6. So now we get 2m and 12m, and when we add those together, that is 14m, and it is positive. So 2m plus 1 times 2m plus 6. And I actually could have done something in that last example that might have made it a little bit easier, but let's look at number 9. So we have 18y squared minus 12y minus 6. When we factor something, we want it to be completely factored. So if there is a number that we could pull out first, like a GCF of the expression, go ahead and factor that out. And here we can factor out, let's see if I write this, the GCF of this trinomial is a 6. So let's factor out that 6 first. That leaves us with 3y squared minus 2y minus 1. Well, now this expression is a lot easier to factor because 3 and 1 are both prime. So you're not looking at this original problem anymore. Now you're looking here. So factors of 3 are 3 and 1. Factors of 1 in the back are 1 and 1. Because the back number is positive, we need one of each sign. So that's 1y. This is minus 3y. That does give us negative 2y, which is what our middle term is, but we do need to remember to bring this 6 down because that 6 is part of the factoring of that expression. If we were to FOIL back out this part, the two binomials, we would get 3y squared minus 2y minus 1, but then we'd have to multiply everything by 6 to get the original expression. And if I go back to that last example, you'll see that I could have divided everything by 2. And now that I'm looking at it, this binomial right here, you could factor a 2 out and be left with m plus 3. So this answer for number 8 should actually be, let's put this 2 all the way out in front, and then we had 2m plus 1 times m plus 3. So if you can take out a greatest common factor, you do need to make sure that you're doing that first. If we look at number 10, we have 20x squared plus 17x plus 3. There's nothing I can take out of all of those. Factors of 3 are 1 and 3. That's going to be nicer because it's prime. Factors of 20 are 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5. So I want you to kind of hear the process now. I'm going to start to do some of this in my head, so I'm not having to write and erase and write and erase and write and erase. So in the back, I'm definitely putting my 1 and my 3. They're the only factors of 3. I'm going to have 2 plus signs because the back sign's positive and it matches the middle. Now I'm going to start thinking about 1 and 20. If I put a 1 first and a 20 last, that gives me 20 plus 3, which is 23. If I put a 2 first, or a 20 first and a 1 last, that gives me 60 and 1. That's way too big. The 2 and the 10, if I put a 2 in the front and a 10 in the back, that's 10 and 6. That doesn't work. If I put the 10 up front, that's 30. With the 2 in the front here, that's 2, so 32. That doesn't work. So let's try the 4 and the 5. I don't think that the other ones are working unless I missed something. 5x, so that's 12x. This is 5x. Yep, when I add it together, I get 17x. Now what's nice about factoring is there's only one right answer, okay? You can't get an answer 2x plus 10 or 2x plus 1 times 10x plus 3. That would not work. Only one answer is going to work. And you're going to start to probably do some of this in your head quickly. You're recognizing how to multiply the inside and outside terms and how combining those two terms together gives you the middle. I know this lesson's getting kind of long, and we have 2 more examples. So why don't you pause the video and try number 11 on your own if you haven't been doing that yet. We have 3x squared minus 7x minus 6. Factors of 3 are 1 and 3. Factors of 6 are 1 and 6 and 2 and 3. And I'm trying to get a negative 7 in the middle when I do my inside and outside terms. So I'm going to place the front in first because it's prime. I know that it's only 1x and 3x. My sign in the back is negative, so I need one of each, positive and negative. plus and minus, addition, subtraction. So you can start with 1 and 6, you can start with 2 and 3, it's your choice. I'm going to start with 2 and 3 because I can see which way it needs to go. I need the 3 here and the 2 here. That gives me 9x. This gives me negative 2x for a positive 7x. But notice I want a negative 7x, which means I'm going to switch my signs. I'm going to make the first sign negative. That gives me negative 9. The back now gives me a positive 2, which is negative 7x. So we have 1x minus 3 times 3x plus 2. And number 12, these look like huge numbers. 18 and 30 both have several factors, but if you recognize that I can divide everything by a 3, or I can factor a 3 out, that's going to give me 6x squared plus 11x minus 5, which is a little bit easier to work with because 5 is prime and 6 is just 1 and 6 or 2 and 3. Remember though, when you do this, that this 3 is still part of your answer, so you have to make sure you bring it down when you're splitting up into your binomials. And if you ever notice that adding the front and the back together give you the middle, so notice that 6 plus 5 is 11. We can see if we can use that to our advantage. I'm not sure that we can. But if I split up 6 into 6x and 1x, I do need a sign of each. Let's see, let's do 5 and 1. That gives me positive 5x, negative 6x, for a negative 1x. That's not what I want. So let's switch to 5 and the 1. That's 1x minus 30. That's not going to work either. So that means that the 6 and the 1 don't work. 1 and 5 is my only option. So let's try 2 and 3. This is 3x minus 10x. Oh, and I can see where I made a mistake. This should be a 10. Factoring out a 3 from 30, that should be a 10, so I apologize for that. Now we do have some other factors to try. 1 and 10 and 2 and 5. So you can see where there's quite a bit of room for error here. Let's fix that binomial then. Okay, so I'm going to do some thinking in my head a little bit. Let's see, 15 and 4, there it is. Okay, so I need 2x and 3x up front, and I want that to be the 15 and that to be the 4. Positive 15, negative 4. So this gives me a 15x, this gives me a minus 4x for 11x, and it's positive. And remember that this 3 has to be part of your answer. So when we factor that original expression, we factored out the 3 first, and then we factored the trinomial into 2x plus 5, 3x minus 2. So hopefully now you're able to factor quadratic trinomials, ax squared plus bx plus c, and remember that this is kind of like a guess and check method. We did several examples. Refer back to any of those if you need to rewatch the lesson, then do that as well. And in class we will work on the 8-4 worksheet.